you told me the truth, even if it really hurt, cause you knew what I was worth. When you let me borrow money that you didn't really have, cause you knew what I was worth. When I was at my worst, you would tell me I would blow when I thought that I would burst. You taught me how to help others, and through that discover how to put myself first. And here we are again, just confronting fears. Whether pain or gain is a bunch of tears. Blood, sweat, and tears probably disappear when smoke starts to clear. Their positions near. Pay attention to the folks who are fanning the flames. They're the ones who matter most in the gravity game. When stakes weigh you down and they stay around to pick up pieces and you off the ground. That's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. Hey, that's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. When you were giving me advice that I seldom ever took, but your head never shook. That's love. Both knowing you were right, never shook a left and right, just gave me that look. When I had to learn the hard way and you would let me fall, but never did it out of spite. You told me never burn a bridge if you built it and you need it, whether river or brook. And here we are again and across the path. Darwin's our friendship strongest last, but our strength lies in our first thoughts to laugh at the things that bring most hurt hearts to clash. Fought past the bowl, beef bouts and brawls, passing pettiness, blame games and all. Had a few years, time out to chill, but knowing when you need space means you feel with love. That's love. That's love. That's love. Hey, that's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. Ooh, we try to tell ourselves that we don't really need it anymore. As if $1 million or the bottom of a bottle or a car, I never cheated it before. So you started with the I don't need it, all I need is money. You can give it to me, but you never get it from me. Yeah, you refuse to play, but you were still in the game. Like it or not, let me explain. Now see, there's a tough kind of too much kind of not enough kind of rather rush kind of the abrupt kind of go nuts kind of hold up. Maybe we should take it slow kind of when you know kind of started off as friends, but then over time began to show kind. And if we love each other, we can't stay together. We'll do worse, the better gotta go kind, and that's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. Hey, that's love. That's love. That's love. That's
Hi, welcome everybody. I don't know about you, but I needed that. I needed that good energy from Odyssey. Thanks for joining Yachica and I at our conversation, not really a panel. We're gonna have hopefully what is a rich conversation about how to pandemic-proof your career. Wherever you are joining us from, we hope that you're safe and you're healthy. I am joining you from Oakland, California, where today we are somewhat smoke-free. So we're going to take that as a win. So I'm Jennifer Henry. I'm the Senior Vice President of Career Services at 2U. And 2U, we have, as many of you know, over 75 university partners. And we put degrees and short courses and boot camps in partnership with our universities into great online learning. And I'm going to really speak today specifically about all the powerful boot camps we offer. In 2020, so far, we have done over 7,300 referrals of our graduates to employers. And so I'm looking forward to sharing with you all of those insights that we've learned from our rich and robust employer network, which leads me to Yachica. who I'm going to
Hi.
ask her to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Yachica Gonzalez. I am with GTA at, that stands for Global Talent Acquisition at Microsoft. We partner with 2U in finding candidates that are transitioning from their boot camp. So I have over 20 years of experience in staffing operations. I've worked with a lot of Fortune 100 companies, including General Mills, and Disney, and Electronic Arts. And so I was happy to join Microsoft. But thank you for having me. I'm really excited about being here.
Well, this is in part an excuse to thank you publicly, Yachica, for all of the incredible partnership you've given to us at 2U and the gift that is to our students. So it started in our relationship when you were at Electronic Arts. And you could see the power of partnering with the 2U network of programs and all the
Absolutely.
Talent that we produce. And then you went over to Microsoft and we found
we stayed together.
We stayed together. And you were recently one of our judges on our Next Level Challenge, which is our annual competition for all of our boot camp graduates for their final projects.
Yes, I was very excited about that. That was a wonderful showcase of talent. And I actually am on the advisory board for the winners now. So that was a great connection. My passion has always been working with individual and early careers. So, and providing like education about technical careers to people in underserved communities. So I think it's very, very necessary.
Well, we could do a whole 45-minute conversation on the winners of the challenge. So maybe one of our 2U colleagues in the background can put a link in the chat to the blog post about that, so we can give a little bit more shine to the three incredible women developers who built what could be a very powerful app. Okay, so Absolutely. We're here though to talk about how are we going to pandemic proof our careers, and I thought that I'll just set the table for the conversation. So the skills, I'm going to say a lot of stuff that I think all of our participants are aware of, and that is that the skills required in the workforce have been shifting the last 20 years. And that is due to the growing adoption of automation and artificial intelligence in our economy. And because of that adoption of automation and artificial intelligence, there's been a growing need for our workforce to have advanced tech skills. Interestingly, what's right behind that demand for the advanced tech skills are also social and emotional skills. And two ways to think about that is one, great leaders, great managers, and great colleagues. There's very few jobs where someone can work entirely in isolation. But management and leadership and the collaboration needed to solve important problems require social and emotional skills. And there's only so much that robots can do. Robots are not great at creativity, and they're not great at empathy. And those continue to be really important in the business world. But let's go back to these tech skills. Because if you want to pandemic proof your career, a really important place to invest in skills is in these advanced tech skills. And then, so we've had this shift for 20 years, and then we arrive at this moment where we have a pandemic. We have increasing joblessness. In fact, over 57 million people in the US have filed for unemployment since the beginning of the pandemic. And we do know that the tech jobs have been the most resilient during this time. And why is that? Well, because we've already been on this trend for the last 20 years of the growing demand for those advanced tech skills. And then I also think there's an interesting framework about change that I'm just going to introduce and then turn this conversation back over to you, Yachica. Back in March, Andrew Murphy from Loop Ventures wrote what I thought was a helpful piece around different kinds of change. It's a really simple framework. And he said, there's temporary change, versus accelerated change. And that COVID was bringing both. So temporary change was, for example, the strange run on toilet paper at the beginning of COVID. It's also our gyms that have closed down, the postponement of live sports, restaurant closings. We expect those things to come back. People are going to continue to want to go out to restaurants. They're going to want to go work out at gyms. Live sports we already see on the way back. But then there's also this accelerated change. And that's the change in habits that had started pre-COVID that are now just speeding up. I, for the first time, did telehealth, and I'm a pretty savvy tech person, but I've always gone in person to the doctor. I did not feel like going into the doctor for my stomach bug last month. Talked to a doctor over the phone, got a prescription. I think I'm going to do that a lot more going forward. We see the same thing with people doing grocery shopping online, ordering their food. Those were all habits that were slow to adopt, and now we see that accelerated change. And so as we think about how to pandemic-proof our career, and we take these two things into account, the shift to automation and artificial intelligence, the demand is put on the workforce for these advanced tech skills, and then actually COVID that comes in at this moment and punctuates that, accelerates a lot of those change. We do have a case for, a way to think about building the next 20, 30, 40 years of your career is to make those investment into those tech skills that we know are in high demand. So what do you agree with, Yachica? What do you think of my premise?
I agree with everything. I was thinking about the paradigm shift and, Microsoft in general. We had this plan, right? We had this workforce plan in January that we were going to implement, and it was an even distribution amongst our products. But once COVID hit, then Microsoft Teams became very valuable for us. We saw a surge in people using it, and now a lot of the school systems are using it. So our demand planning completely shifted. So with that, the types of jobs that I usually like right now that are valuable, I think, or tech skills that are valuable, you have to think of the product lines. We need people to support our different product lines. So across all the platforms, we have, Xbox, which is another a product that took off, right? Everybody's playing video games. You can't get an Xbox anywhere. It's really difficult right now. And then we have the new Xbox that's coming out. So those types of jobs, we need software engineers, and that's everybody, right? So software engineers are in very high demand, and including in software development, there's the UI, UX, there's the front end design of it, and then there's to back end. So, and then IT, hardware, peripherals, and product support. And a lot of people don't know about that. So you have your help desk, right, for people who call in, or even our internal clients, but you have your help desk where if there's technical issues, they help them through that. And there's 3 tiers there. And then we have product support specialists, people who are experts in our products. And that's a technical kind of business hybrid, right? Another technical career that we've seen is project managers, where you have to have a good command of technology, but you are managing the process. So I would say that, you can choose, there's a lot of different positions that you can choose from and transfer your skills. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So perhaps somebody in the audience right now is thinking, well, that's really great, but how do I get these skills, right? And I love to, this is a conversation you and I have had before, Yachica, in the sometimes when we say advanced tech skills, people think I have to know how to code, right? Or that in order to be well equipped for today's economy, for the economy 10 years from now, like when Jennifer says advanced tech skills, it must be those hardcore.
Yeah.
But it's actually much broader than that.
Yes, very much so. And that's something that I have to, when I talk to especially high schoolers, right, the number one theme that I get when I'm trying to talk to people about tech careers is, it's hard. Is it hard? And they're thinking of algorithms and, you know, things of that sort. And, you know, I just like to encourage people that I'm not saying that there are not challenges in it, but people, once you get in it, you'd be surprised at, it's not how easy it is, but how these programs teach and take real world experience and help you to transition. I remember when my son graduated from high school and he was nervous about college, and I said, it's just the 13th grade. That was the best way I could describe it. Like, you know, he thought it was going to be this big, robust, you know, he's supposed to know all of this stuff, and you really don't get into your major until like your junior year, but they prepare you in that way. And these types of programs do that.
I love that, because I have a senior in high school. So I'm going to remember that when she has her anxiety moment before she goes to college, like, it's the 13th grade. You are ready for this. So perhaps somebody is also asking, well, how do I get these skills? And you were just talking about alluding to some of the programs. So this is my opportunity to talk about one of the things I'm most passionate about, which is our boot camps at 2U. So we partner with 50 universities to offer mostly part-time 6-month boot camps. And what makes a boot camp? It is they're affordable and they're accessible. And the curriculum is market driven. So when I talked earlier about the 7,300 referrals that we've done for our 2U powered bootcamp graduates just this year alone in 2020, that was 7,300 opportunities for feedback from employers. So we can be able to tell our students, this is exactly what your resume should look like. This is exactly what great interviewing skills sound like. This is what your portfolio should look like. And equally important, we can go back into our curriculum and ensure that our students are learning what the market is looking for. And then of course we have, I lead the career services team. So shout out to all my career services people out there, whether you're part of the 2U team or part of a career services somewhere else. We're in the business of helping people find jobs. And what an incredible business to be in. But we can ensure from all of those insights that our curriculum is aligned to employer demand. And in addition, our boot camps, it's actually full-time industry professionals. So people who have their day jobs working for companies like Microsoft who are instructors. So it's just that tight alignment with what employers are looking for.
I really am an advocate because we are now in a time where diversity and inclusion is very important, especially in the workforce. And that's not just from a ethnicity background. We want different perspectives. One of the things at Microsoft that we're looking to improve, because we're such a great employer, we have lifers. We have people who've been with the company 10, 20, 30, you know. So with that sounds great, but we would like some unique, fresh ideas. So we've partnered with these types of programs to obtain that, and people come in with the skills that we need.
What a testament to Microsoft to have people who love their jobs so much that they stay there for so long, right? Yeah, and then to have that mix of new talent coming in, like that just creates a really dynamic culture. So I started off when at the introduction saying there's these technical skills and that those are the most in demand, but that close behind are these social and emotional skills. And so as we think about how to pandemic proof our career, we want to stay focused on both. And what I also love too, Yachica, what you just offered is, I know both you and I are very passionate about diversity and inclusion, and see that as a sophisticated skill set. And that in fact, businesses need leaders and managers and colleagues who know how to build, lead, and work within diverse and inclusive teams. So if any of you have that skill set out there, and I know many of you do, that is an asset, right? And the more you can lean in and promote that skill set, the more valuable you are to companies. But I know you've told me, Yachica, how Microsoft values those soft skills and that you intensely assess them during the hiring process. Can you share with us more about that?
Sure, yeah. So within Microsoft or most Fortune 100 companies, you have different types of departments. So you have different cultures, right? So our people that work within data are maybe with our servers all day and they don't have a lot of human interaction. That's a culture. Within our legal department, that's a culture. So I think that it's so important that during the interview stage or even the selection stage, when you're trying to figure out where you fit in and what you want to do, make sure that you identify the culture that you want to work within, because we're looking for, and a lot of times, soft skills, right? We want to isolate what that is, and we get individuals that come and they cover, is what we call it. It's called covering,
Yep.
right? So that means you make assumptions about what is needed in an interview, and you don't show your true self, which is what we want to see. And I remember when I was at Electronic Arts, we were so laid back. Our managers had T-shirts, and it was such a relaxed culture. And we would have these candidates come in with ties and button-ups, and so it's so important to kind of understand that. And it made people really uncomfortable. So we want you to show your uniqueness. I mean, communication is important. Social intelligence, emotional intelligence. These are the things that we're assessing, probably more so than hard skills. So I'm going to give you the answers on the test really quick. So when you come and you prepare, and I try to prepare my candidates for this when they come in, they want to focus on the job description and study that and make sure that, and I've seen them, brush up on their technical skills, and they walk into our interviews and we don't ask them any technical questions. Or there's let me not say that. We don't put an emphasis on the technical questions, because guess what? You've never worked for Microsoft. We have proprietary information that differentiates us from other products. So you can't know, right? So it's so important to show your aptitude to learn. And I think that, if we could, and you can speak to this in terms of the training and development that you guys do for people when they come in, if we could just, and that's what fosters diversity and inclusion, is you being able to come into a situation and be your authentic self. So we have this, we call it screening in. So we don't look at your credentials when we screen resumes. We don't look at it to see what you don't have, to see the gaps. We look for attributes and how you can fit in and where you can fit in, because just having the desire to come is enough. And we have so many different opportunities. So people I think are not aware of that.
I love that. I love the asset-based mindset at which you're looking at talent for Microsoft.
The other thing, I'm sorry to interrupt, is the growth mindset is so important as well. And how you demonstrate that and how you articulate that in your interview.
Yes. And I have a similar, I think a really important way that people can pandemic proof their career is to be open to feedback. You and I have talked about this a lot, Yachica, that there's feedback everywhere. We are all receiving feedback continuously, and it's
Sure.
to be open to it and lean into it, because that's what gives us an accurate self-assessment to know where our growing edges, and then to be in that learner mindset so that we stay agile and adaptable. Because one thing we know for sure over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years is that people who are going to have really successful careers are going to be people who are highly adaptable, right? And
Absolutely.
really never stop learning. Let's go back to this, thinking about how we present ourselves in the job market. And you and I both have talked about brand statements, branding ourselves, as a way to create, be clear with ourselves about what our own value proposition is to potential employers, to be able to communicate that effectively, and then to be able to find the right fit for us where we can be successful. Because part of building a pandemic-proof career is being successful in the job you have today, right, in ways that can help you be successful in the job you have in the future. And do you want to talk a little bit about this idea of branding ourselves?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people think about branding, they think about how they're viewed on social media, or people don't understand that your unique talents and who you are is your brand, and how you represent that to others is your personal brand. So a couple things I wanted to point out when it comes to that. I think there's a self-discovery that needs to take place before you do that. And I think that's where a lot of people trip up. We want to present ourselves as jack of all trades because we think it'll limit us if we authentically represent who we are. But the truth of the matter is you can sell yourself to get into a position that you're miserable in, right? And that can take you on a path that you don't want to go on. The other thing is when you brand yourself properly, meaning if you, and it does require marketing and social media platforms, but your resume is your first line of defense, right? So when you do brand yourself, it's important that that you, oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at something, that you be as authentic as possible, and then have that reach for recruiters to find you, because our recruiting function and our sourcing function are two totally different things now, right? So we have sourcers, headhunters that look for people, and ideally you want to be the person that they search for, right? So just my personal story with Microsoft, I had been applying to Microsoft for about 5 years, just going in the portal. And then I started working for other companies, so the skill set was there. But when I started speaking, I started doing speaking in the community about recruitment careers. I started posting things on my LinkedIn and became known within the industry for my recruitment skills, a subject matter expert, if you will, right? And so then a Microsoft recruiter came to me actually, and I hadn't even applied for the position. So these are some tips that you can use. You have to be that. You can't want to be. You have to walk into the position knowing who you are. If you're an artist, if you're a creative IT artist, you need to be that, even though you don't have the job yet. That's what you need to be demonstrating in your everyday.
I love the story that you were applying to Microsoft over and over again, and then they actually came and proactively found you. And it was really when you said you started speaking. Can you talk a little bit about the things you were, when you went out and you said into the community and you were speaking, were these things that you were these things that were passionate to you? Like, what was the motivation behind sort of putting yourself out there that then attracted the attention of Microsoft?
I think it was the self-discovery piece. I think it was, for me personally, it was taking what I was good at, what I was great at, and paying it forward outside of my 9 to 5. And in that, I understood that the skills that I had obtained made me valuable. And so there were things that I wanted to teach other people who might be in the same situation. So I think that, ultimately, be visible, don't be invisible.
Yeah, and it sounds like the ways in which you put yourself out there was aligned to who you are as a person and the values that you hold, and speaking to things that you were passionate about. It didn't come from a place of, I'm going to go check these boxes to do the networking. It was authentic to you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
In the career services, our 2U career services, one of the first things we ask our boot camp students to do is to create a brand statement, and is to do that self-discovery and that reflection that you speak of, that I've also done personally, to be able to tell the story of who I am, right, succinctly. Yeah. And the framing we give it is, it's first, about my past. What are the accomplishments what have I accomplished in the past? What has success looked like for me up till now? For our boot camp students then, what are the skills I'm acquiring in the boot camp today? So we're marrying the past accomplishments, the past experiences with today's skills, and then asking them to articulate what they want in the future. And what you said resonates so much because the great brand statements are unique. And they're unique because they reflect the personality and the passions of the person who wrote it, right? So it's specific, it's authentic. And then once they get this brand statement, they can adapt it. It can become their LinkedIn summary. It can become the professional summary at the top of the resume. It can become what they say. Well, I guess we're not handshaking right now. It can become what people say when they meet in online networking. It is like the go-to foundational statement that says,
Agreed.
This is who I am. And I know you agree that when we're authentic about that, it means we're not going to be the right fit for everybody, but it means we will attract the people and the situations and the employers and the companies that are the right fit for us. I know that is definitely how I feel about finding my home at 2U. Yeah.
On a basic, like, we used to call them objectives. People would put their objectives on the front of their resume. So that has evolved to personal brand statements. And working in the creative industry, and even in the tech industry, you have a diversity of personalities. And I've seen some of the quirkiest, craziest brand statements, right, that probably wouldn't work in a more bureaucratic, regulated type of system, but it was wonderful for the culture. Like, it gave me some insight into how that person would behave or fit into our culture. So I think, and we probably spend on average 10 seconds, right, reading a resume. We just kind of scan, and that was something that often made me want to find more, especially the creative ones. So yeah, and you can't tell from a chronological resume about soft skills. But if you have a great brand statement, that gives us a little bit more insight and makes you more attractive.
I love that. Yeah. And the process of writing the brand statement, to your earlier point, is that self-discovery process that will just help build the confidence for what can be a job search process that requires a lot of persistence and resilience.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
what do we have to say to people who just want to switch careers? What if there's somebody listening right now and they are in a job, or they've come from a job that didn't require much tech skills? They're thinking, how do I make this leap? What's our advice?
Yeah. I would say, number one, come up with a plan. Create a strategy. Once you decide and know who you are and what you want to do, plan for that. The next one is you need to decide what's important to you. It could be salary driven. It could be culture. It could be so, I mean, a lot of people want to work for companies that have a strong mission, right? So, and they want their core values to align with their morality and their core values. So that's another thing that you need to decide, because being in the right industry is very, very important. Probably the most important one is networking, right? So you need to find the people who are doing what you're doing and the people who are doing what you want to do, and definitely connect with them. And that goes along with getting into companies, because some of the companies, it's difficult to just be another number. So knowing people who can refer you, and I could say the majority comes from referrals. The majority of the people that we hire. So that's important.
Oh,
also.
wow.
Utilize LinkedIn. Yeah. Utilize those things. Talk to strangers.
Yeah, that's it. We have this incredible team of career directors at 2U. And so I polled them this morning, like last minute advice. And one of our career directors, Gwen, offered, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
the way LinkedIn, you know, with all of the connections, right? You know, and you get that
Yeah.
compelling professional summary at the top that really can tell who you are succinctly, and you've sort of set yourself up for some good networking. And for us at the boot camps, we have incredible stories of, you know, a man who was a dishwasher who took our web development boot camp and now is now is a developer, right? I mean, we just have the stories we have that are proof, you know, that regardless of the job where you are now, you put the time in to acquire these skills, you know, you can build the career of your dreams.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it does take grit and it does take perseverance. And if it's something that you've identified that you would love to do, you'll get through that.
We have a couple questions in the Q&A that are to this topic. So I'm going to throw them out to you, Yachica, and two of them are related. So one is from Carly. She asks, what type of roles do you suggest for former educators looking to pivot into technology?
Carly, that's a great question. What I've seen is, honestly, you can tailor it with educators because you have the aptitude to learn new things. I see most of them transition into corporate training, but in terms and within the technology industry, that's a no-brainer right there. But because if you find a product, if you find something within even UI, UX, software development, I encourage people to study the software development lifecycle or the product development lifecycle and choose what it is that you are passionate about and what you like to do. So when you're flipping careers, some of the transferable skills do lead to, you know, training and development. Even within technology, we have those departments, and that goes from product training to project management, which is another one that would be probably a desirable skill for somebody with that career, and then internal training. So if you like the educational part, if that's the part of what you do that you love,
I completely agree. And Carly, little known fact, I actually started my career as a high school history teacher. Yes, and then was trained as a principal and spent years on K-12 teacher training, K-12 principal training. So Carly, yay for educators. And I would say the world's your oyster, period. Right? I mean, the transferable skills so to Yachica's point, if you love teaching and learning and you love adults, right? Because teaching adults is different than teaching children, then everything around the corporate training I would emphatically agree with. I'd also say the transferable skills, I mean, the stakeholder management, the communication skills, the planning skills, the prioritization skills. I mean, the list goes on. And so it's really, I would just go look at companies or industries or different kinds of jobs, how you would like to spend your time. And then just sort of backwards map into what's that actual technical skill set you may need to invest in to make that career pivot. But educators, like you really are in a great spot to move in any direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Dead on. Yeah.
I have another one for you, Yachica. How do 2U online graduates, so our boot camp graduates, how do they perform relative to people who don't come out of the boot camps? Do you see any difference in performance?
I will say that the people we prepared early career professionals very well. So the ones that come from boot camps, we put them in a 16-week program that gives them on-the-job training, right? It's called the LEAP program, so you should look that up. But that's one entryway. And then on the campus recruiting side, they have internships. So I would say it's a mixed bag, okay? Because the people, there's strengths and weaknesses to both. People that usually come from boot camps or the 2U program already have life skills, they already have work experience, So they understand what it is to maneuver in a corporate environment, and they have the direct skills. Whereas on the campus side, you have people who are more, because there's a theoretical part of a 4-year college, right, that doesn't teach you on the job training, that doesn't teach you how to maneuver through cultures and the emotional intelligence piece that we were talking about. So there's a little bit of an adjustment for those individuals. And so they both have kind of challenges. So it's hard to say. I would honestly put it even. And I think that but most of them, they perform well. And I think finding an employer that has those safeguards that will give you the training and work with you where you're at is very, very important in that. And I believe Microsoft does that very well.
Okay, so I have another hot question from Heidi. I'm an unemployed project manager. There are jobs out there, but how do I get a real person to see my resume?
Yeah. A real person. And that goes back to the networking piece.
Yes,
and I think that you have to make yourself visible, whether it be attending conferences. So I imagine that I'm going to have some people contact me from this, right? So you have a Microsoft recruiter right in front of your face right now. So this was the first step, right? So you doing those things and attending these types of forums and connecting with people. I know sometimes you end up in the inbox and we don't answer and you're trying to have that personal, but don't target recruiters. Target people who are in the industry that you do, like target other project managers and connect with them on LinkedIn and send them message, because they tend to be more empathetic to where you are. And a lot of times before they put their name and refer you, they'll kind of screen you out too. I've seen that. And then there are referral bonuses for sending great candidates. So some of them have an interest with sending, people that's incentivized. So I would say, don't quit. Don't quit. Keep at it. I know it's easier said than done. And the other piece of that would be to take this time to get additional training and skills, to get a certification, whether it be, Six Sigma or to make yourself more valuable. Get feedback from the people who are doing it too, to see how you can sharpen your skills and make yourself more visible or attractive as a candidate.
Yeah,
but there's no secret.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. I wish we were unveiling some, some magic wisdom that, the only other thing I'd add to that comprehensive response is to echo the investment in training. We, for example, have a technical project management boot camp that we've, worked with employers to ensure the curriculum is aligned with what the job market is looking for. I go back to your example, Yachica, about how you landed at Microsoft, which was your networking or putting yourself out there came from a place of what can I do for others? And often we think of networking as how can I connect with people so I can have them help me? Absolutely. And so that's important, right? Because you're like, who could mentor me, or who's in a job that I love? Maybe they'll talk to me. I mean, but it also starting with what do I have to offer with the skills and experiences Absolutely. I have now? Yeah. And that there might be some project work, right? So is it finding, somebody who's trying to start a nonprofit, or could you do some work freelance, build some more work in your portfolio? It just even doing good work for other people gets your name out there.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to do your PR. I took pictures, I posted them. Don't forget the marketing aspect of that, right? So that any opportunity you have to show yourself and what you're capable of, that is important any way you can do it.
So we have 2 more minutes left, and I just thought do we have any last minute advice, anything we felt like we didn't touch on? How should people navigate this choppy job market right now and do things in the short term, but that will also help them in the long term? Any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say self-assessment, we talked about that, is the most important thing, because this journey is a I don't want to say a long one, but it's going to be a combination of ups and downs, wins and losses, and you have to persevere. You have to stick with it. It needs to be something that you are serious about, something that you feel like you could do, and something that you're passionate about. So, and it doesn't have to be as the skill. It could be the culture. I've had people who are gamers in the gaming industry, and it almost didn't matter where we put them or where they ended up in terms of their skill level, but they were so passionate, they were willing to do whatever it took to do that, right? And when they faced challenges, they kept going because they knew that that was something they wanted to do. So I would say grit and perseverance is a huge part of that. And there are a lot of tips and tricks that we could offer, definitely, but I would say staying on the path that you choose, and that you and whatever sharpening tools that you can get, whether it be free seminars. LinkedIn has trainings, Google has trainings and certifications that are free. There's a lot of resources out there for you. I don't want to go over the 2 minutes, but
well,
that would be my closing.
So what I heard is be real with yourself. Know your strengths, know your growing edges, lean into those growing edges, find people who will be real with you, listen to the feedback, act on it. We all have to keep growing, lean into learning, right? And then network.
Yes, absolutely. That's it.
That's it. It was a pleasure. That time flew by. Thank you, Yachica, as always. You are just
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Stay
everyone.
safe. Be well.